We were speaking about
Seiya.
So what happened was that we tried to record it, and then it failed. So we are recording this for the second time. Thank you, Romy, for
No worries.
yeah, it happens. Technical, you can never trust technology.
That's
okay.
true.
Great. So okay, the first one you mentioned was Saint Seiya. So explain to the people what it was and why you like it.
Okay, so I don't know if I know why I like it. But okay, so it was just awesome.
Cool.
But Saint Seiya, okay, so it's basically the story of these 5 teenagers or young adults.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know, right? Who are all orphans, and they are sort of adopted or protected by these very important Japanese man, who is the granddad of the reincarnation on Earth of the goddess Athena, right? And he has to protect her, and Athena's mission, of course, is to protect the world from all evil, all things evil. And these warriors, or these saints, work. They work with her, right? So they are all sent, as children, they are all sent to different parts of the world to train with certain masters. And once they are ready, they do fight in some sort of, there are like some fights that they have to go through, and they have to fight for their armor that they will always carry with them. So you have Seiya, who has the armor of a Pegasus, Yoga, who has the armor of a swan, Shiru, who is a dragon, Iki, who I was in love with, Phoenix, who's a phoenix, and Sean of Andromeda, right? So I like how of course, it's all fantasy, but it is sort of related to like Greek mythology, because usually the gods and the enemies are gods from Greek mythology. And of course, you can see friendship. It's sometimes a bit cheesy. It's a violent cartoon for sure. Definitely.
By the way, how old were you when you were watching this?
No, actually. I don't really know.
Okay.
Like 7, 8.
But you shouldn't be watching this.
Yeah, probably. Like sometimes, they were blind and there was blood everywhere, and they would, they were resilient, and they would like come back to life and elevate their cosmos. So I don't know what's there to not love about it. And so one of the first maybe battle was like the 12 houses, so it goes as the zodiac goes, right? So they had to fight with other knights, and they carried golden armors, and there was maybe the Knight of Aries and Taurus and Capricorn, all of them. So yeah, it's epic.
Okay, cool. And you just you love the idea of this fantasy mixed with mythology, with this really great drama.
Yeah.
Okay, and the next one is it's cliche
Sailor
at this point.
Sailor Moon, it's a cliche. I'm sorry, but it's I think it's just fascinating as a girl, I guess. To I guess it was nice to see girls as heroes. Instead of, sometimes, of course, maybe Sailor Moon was rescued by Tuxedo Mask, but for the most part, she was the main character, right? Her and her entourage of women, of Sailor Scouts. So that was nice. And I guess as a girl, as a young girl, you think of how you're going to be as a teen, and it's always fantastic to think that one day you might have powers. You might have some kind of magic.
I was really into it's I think as an idea, I grew up on Cartoon Network, so as an idea it's very risky to sell to boys, but I was really into Powerpuff Girls.
Oh yeah, of course.
And it's it's a really simple idea, but it's really brilliant, and I even watched it like a year ago, and I rewatched all the episodes, and I still enjoy them. They're really good. Mojo Jojo.
In Spanish, it's mojo.
Oh, in Mexico it's called mojo.
Because J sounds like
Jota.
so mojo.
Does he have? Because he had in English, he had a Japanese, like really ridiculous, cliche Japanese accent.
Oh no, in Spanish
he would say, like say.
Yeah, okay. Maybe, but I don't know if he sounded Japanese. I don't know.
And now I realize that he sounds Japanese after watching like a lot of cliche Japanese. Okay, so Saint Seiya, Sailor Moon, anything else?
I love.
And you told me so.
I told you about this other anime, Magic Heart, Ring Heart or something. Again, 3 warriors who, I don't know, lived on Earth, and they are somehow taken to this other world. They have to protect it. They all have different personalities. Mm-hmm. I like the one with the strongest personality, of course, who was like really good at fighting with her sword. I don't know. I really like cartoons.
Because when you said 3 girls and were like different personalities, I immediately thought like maybe like Powerpuff Girls is inspired from.
Could be actually because they use the same colors actually. Like the main one, yeah, sure. She wore like red stuff, like red suit. Mm-hmm. That was one.
Like Blossom.
Blossom.
She's the strong, like she's the leader.
Yeah. And Lucy was
like
yeah, that's true, sort of. Maybe.
So that's I mean, sometimes one art inspires each other and they inspire each other. So I, of course, like I said, I grew up in Cartoon Network, so of course we had Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory, and of course, the usual Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes. And, I don't know, there was something.
Arnold.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. They still have a charm about them.
Broca's Modern Life.
Yeah, like for example Scooby Doo. I was a huge fan of Scooby Doo, but then afterwards they did some reboots and stuff, and that was really boring. I don't know, it lost that.
Yeah, I think I was never a big fan of
Scooby Doo.
Sometimes it was dated.
I like Scooby Doo. Where Are You? Sometimes it was really scary. Some things were like when I was a kid. It was really scary. Yeah, like there's especially there's I forgot the name of the episode, but there's an episode where a ghost like calls someone and he like sleepwalks to the he has to go somewhere. So the sound is like so and as a child, not a child, but maybe in my early teens or whatever, it was still scary. I mean, even now, like, if I put it like just that sound in the dark. I think they have definitely, shaped like the kind of person. Like you told me, you still hope to have superpowers one day.
Yeah, of course. I still hope.
How about a mech? Will the mech suit will be acceptable, or it's just?
I don't know. I have never really thought of my suit, but I like the powers.
Okay. So what kind of superpowers do you want to have?
I don't know. I'd like to be able maybe to control the weather a little bit, or throw bombs, shield, or to make things float. I don't know. I'd like to have a lot of superpowers. Okay. I don't know that I want to be invincible, but or to be as fast as a ninja.
Okay, that's great. Yeah,
weapons. Swords.
Okay, and we were also talking about finding one's home, right? Like, why? Because I remember we used to have these long conversations for like 3 or 4 hours. And you used to live in India, right? So if I have to trace back in the map, so you were born in Mexico.
Grew up in Mexico, I guess.
Said, and then you said the first.
I lived most of my time there. Then when I was 18, I lived in Germany for a year. So I guess that was my real, the first time I was exposed to, different, like a very different way of life. And I loved it. And yeah, you definitely never go back. I think once you're abroad, and then well, of course you change as a person, or there's elements that you incorporate. You understand other things. You don't understand some others. But then I went back to Mexico. I did uni there. Between these years, I went to Brazil and I was traveling there with a friend, and then I went to Ireland and Hungary to visit another friend, and it was amazing. And then I used to live in this. It's not a small city. It's I don't know, a pretty big city actually called Puebla. It's really beautiful. It's a good place to grow up in. But at some point, I was just like, this is boring.
Mm.
And I moved to Mexico City, also because I had a boyfriend, and I wanted to be closer to him. Ta 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 ta.
So he was living in Mexico City, so
yeah,
you had
yeah.
to move? Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, why not? But also I wanted the excitement of
Okay.
Mexico City, right? Like a big city, and it's super cultural, and there are so many things to do, and there's concerts and foods and museums and art and full on. And I enjoyed it, but I remember at some point I was just, I don't really know why I did it. The reason I left. I don't think I have a concrete reason. When people ask me, sometimes I just think I wanted a change, or maybe I was just ready to do something else.
Yeah.
And I left, and I found this opportunity in India, tata,
Yeah.
and I absolutely loved it.
So you were a teacher in India?
No, I was working for a corporate trainings company,
Okay.
and it was really nice. I mean, the job was nice. Yes, I enjoyed it, but I think it was like the whole experience in India. It was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Mm. And in India, in New Delhi as well?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Beautiful.
a lot of people don't like New Delhi,
Of
right?
course not. I mean, it's not beautiful, but
Okay.
that's where I was.
and you said, so I bring this up because you said that you felt, I don't know, somehow more at home in India than in your own Puebla, in your own town, right?
Yeah.
So, but you couldn't say why.
Yeah, I think maybe it was the people I met, or perhaps the connections I sort of made with myself, like the realizations. I think I realized how adventurous I can be.
Mm.
Which is really nice. And maybe, as you said, it sort of humbles you. And there were so many other things that I realized I didn't need, and that was important. And I guess it was just every day was an adventure, of course. Because there were so many things I didn't know, and India is full on for sure. Like, it's visually very entertaining. Like, I don't think it ever stops. Then I guess the first 2 weeks I was a little bit, you know, trying to be. I was always aware of my surroundings, and I didn't know what to do. But then it's because I had these great friends, or well, they were there who showed me around. And I don't know. I just
Yeah. No, I was saying that because we didn't record this, but we were not talking about. I said that there's something about first of all leaving the environment you grew up in that puts things in perspective, right? Like we talked about, like the story of fish out of water, like literally that's what it means. And the other thing I said is that going to a country where the simple thing as your mother tongue they're not really aware of it.
yeah,
And so you have to be like, okay, so it's not, I mean, it's not, my world is not everybody's world.
Yeah,
Everybody
exactly.
there. So, and I don't know, especially in Thailand, I just feel like, I mean, of course, people are very nice here, they're very patient.
Very forgiving.
Very forgiving, yes. Okay, everybody's awkward because some people say that they're awkward, but I think everybody's awkward. And the other thing is that they do smile even when they're uncomfortable. So you have
sometimes you don't know what lies behind that smile.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember there was someone, I think it was one of your friends who came from I don't know where, but she was just telling us what happened in the immigration, and they were waiting for a long time, and then they asked for some water or something, and there was a guy who came, I mean, one of the staff members, and she asked him something, and I think he didn't understand what she said, and he smiled. And the fact that he smiled made her even more angry. Like, why are you smiling? You know?
Why are you not solving a problem?
So just keep that in mind, like for those people who come to Thailand.
Yes, there might be a smile, and you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So
they're being polite.
and the other thing is, we talked about plans. So I asked you, do you consider yourself a person who has plans? I said,
well, no, I think I don't know. I can be very impulsive, and sometimes I feel like I don't really have a plan, but at the same time, when I look back, I feel as if, that I am becoming the woman that I always dreamt of becoming. But maybe the journey has been absolutely different, right? Yeah. So I always wanted to have superpowers. I don't. I might have social superpowers.
You do, I think,
maybe. Yeah. And I always wanted to do something for others. I always would say animals and the environment were, I don't know, have always been important. But art. But I think at some point in life I sort of broke that connection with myself, and through my travels and facing shit that I don't like, accepting things about myself and meeting people from all walks of life, it's that I have managed to make certain connections that draw me to who I am. So I guess I didn't plan that, but in a way, it's taking me to the place I want to be in life.
No, that's definitely.
If that makes any sense.
No, one of the things that I always say, like, people should always, if you have the means, of course, to try to travel. I mean, sure. I had the opportunity to use the company I worked for as to move to different countries, but some people have money, so they travel. But traveling, you see, it's sort of a different setting, so it sort of makes you question your own reality, which is why I love movies, because as fictional as they might be, there is something that seeing a movie like, for example, have you seen Annihilation? There's a movie called. So it's a very, I call it existential horror. Okay. It's a horror film, but it's existential, which means that it sort of questions, like, am I part of this programming? Am I, why do we always expect this to be the outcome of the But so I always recommend people to travel, but if you can't, just use art, because that's the best way, like whether it's books, comic books, or movies, that gives you even Game of Thrones, as imaginative as fiction. I mean, it is a fiction, right? But there's something at the core which is very human. Like, it comes from a very human reflection. It comes from a human experience, and that's what I always try to tell the people. And I think, people do get that consciously, but they don't really think about consciously. So, which is why one of the favorite things I like doing is talking about movies. Like, okay, what does it mean? Like, and then what are they trying to say? So we're talking about. Let's switch a little bit to movies then. Like, what is the last movie you have seen?
Why are you asking me this question for? It's
been a long time.
It was some horror movie. I don't know. Something was lost in Sweden, and there was a witch.
You don't remember the name?
No, I don't remember the name.
Okay, I watched
it with my roommate, and we were like, he likes horror movies. I'm not really into horror movies because I always have had dreams and I don't like them. Yeah. But I think that might have been the last one. What?
Okay, so if is there a movie that you go back to and you would watch more, like over and over again? Is there like?
Yeah, I really like Little Miss Sunshine.
You talked to me about
I
this.
love Little Miss
I have
Sunshine. I don't know
not
why,
seen
but
it.
it's just
I have not seen it, but it's but a lot of people tell me it's wonderful.
Yeah, or I don't know. I think when it comes to movies and books, like I read and I watch stuff, but I just really forget.
Okay, tell me about music.
Okay,
So the thing with the music for me is, you know, since I grew up in India, most of the music we listen to is like from the movies, like songs from the movies, and then the music I discovered, it's either through friends or through movies, which means like I watch a movie and there's a song and I really like it. Oh, what's that song? And then you just look for the song, and then you look for the artist, and then so sometimes you discover, yeah. So tell me what kind of music you're into.
No, I think I'm more. I mean, I do like movies, but I'm tired of Hollywood movies. That's why I'm like, I will not watch them. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't know. I think I'm more drawn to music, although I don't make any, because of the state of mind or the emotional state it takes me to, or it puts me in. And lately, I've always liked, I don't know, I like different types of music. I like trip hop, I like jazz, of course, I like Latin music, I like a bit of reggae, I like funk, you see, I like a lot of things. And lately, I've been more interested in instrumental music because I think I don't have to use someone else's thoughts. Right? These are just my thoughts, and I can maybe create or write or paint or just feel. And it sort of plays with your emotions and your state of mind. And I think it is really interesting how, like, musicians or multi instrumentalists incorporate different elements. These can be elements from different genres or from different countries. And sometimes you don't really need to understand what they're talking about. And at times you sort of do at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love music.
So, no, I think everything, like, everything which is art is mainly the way you feel about it, right? Like it's like when I teach some drawing to some people, so they always say, "Oh, my drawing doesn't look like the object I'm drawing," or so on, right? I mean, yeah, but I think the most important thing is not representing reality, because we have photograph for that. What people want to see is that how do you see reality, or how do you feel about reality? That's what's more interesting, right? Because if someone watches, if 100 people watch a movie, there will be 100 different interpretations, right? And same for when you look at reality, you have different interpretations. And if imagine you go into a classroom and every student's drawing looks the same, it'd be boring. It would be interesting to see, like, I see that you focused on this part of the drawing, and so on. So I think it's so as an artist, everybody what is trying to do is, which is why when you say you don't like Hollywood, I think Hollywood is becoming more of the studio system where it's more about it's more about like getting through executives rather than artists just trying to do their thing.
Yeah, for sure. And they only focus on one particular culture. Like there's no, there are so many other things to see and portray and like bring and incorporate, and there's always this, the same view, everything comes from the same perspective.
Yes.
Then it's just really boring.
Yeah. Because you've seen it so many times.
Yeah,
and And I think so when artists want to do something, they have an idea, but mostly they have a feeling that they want to communicate, convey, and then they create something, and then the person, the audience, or the fan just reads it, and starts reading. And that person starts feels that feeling, and I think that's the most rewarding thing for an artist. Like I felt something, and I wanted them to feel something, even if it's not the same thing I feel.
Yeah, sure.
But the fact having these censorship, executives, distribution, budget, and so on, that sort of,
restraints.
that distills your feeling. So,
Yeah.
And I think when you say that you don't want to listen to the thoughts, that's really interesting, because if you don't have lyrics, lyrics usually make you think about something, and if you are listening to instrumentals, that means that you want to be tuned into the feeling. That's it. And also, like for example, when I write, I can't listen to songs because I don't want words thrown at me. So, but when I'm drawing, when I'm doing something really like systematic or like really automatic, like inking or coloring, which I really don't need to think because the basis is already established, I do listen to podcasts, and that gets me through. But usually I just write in silence.
I just write.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I need a bit of. Well, sometimes it depends when I write, but I think when I paint or when I draw, I think every experience is different. Sometimes I just really like, having a glass of wine and instrumental music, whatever my mood is, right? Or sometimes I just appreciate the silence and being present and trying to do things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me it's more like, I don't think maybe not everyone is interested in art, and that's fine. But I've met people recently who maybe just really can't draw. And the other day I was drawing with some friends, and we came up with those are nice doodles and drawings, and when you look at them, it's just fun to look at because for us they were great. But I think it's more like art is a liberating experience, and a lot of times when you give someone maybe a piece of paper and a pencil, they're just like, okay, so what should I draw? And they're like, really? Anything you want. That's why you have an empty canvas. And then we have our own restrictions, right? Because we think, oh my God, this drawing or this painting isn't as beautiful as yours. And you're like, but it doesn't even have to be beautiful. It's the experience of creating, right? And maybe sometimes you create some disturbing things, and they're like, oh, let's see.
Yeah.
Or some beautiful things, or sometimes it just doesn't do it for you or for anyone. But I think it's just, it really is the process.
Okay,
for me,
so
sometimes I do want to convey a message, and I'm sure I do. But sometimes I know what message I want to convey after I have created something. Sometimes it's just very a personal process. If I'm stressed out, or if I'm angry, or if I'm sad, and I just feel anxious, and I need to draw. I'm getting good at using my left hand, right handed, but So I think it sort of makes you think differently.
That's good. So I think that's a good question that because I'm still trying to figure out what this podcast is, right? But and then I told you, since I consider myself an artist, and I feel like art is very important in that it brings people together. The perfect example is, I have nothing against sports, but I think it's too connected to nationalism now.
Sports?
People sports, for example, people get really too nationalistic, and they forget about the fun of playing and the fun of sports. But I think if you go to Comic-Con, for example, it doesn't matter if you have dark skin or light skin, and everybody is we love the same stuff, right? And then you start talking about the details of, we get very geeky, and then, like I said, that's there's that layer of thinking, this character is drawn very beautifully, but then there's another layer where you go and actually this means this, and for example, there's my favorite YouTube channel is called Wisecrack, and they do philosophy of each different things.
And serious games.
Yeah, the games or characters, and I really love that. That's what I think that's what I've in a way been trying to do. But I'm not a philosopher. I love philosophy. I love psychology, but I'm not a philosopher. And it's really funny.
You are in a way.
It's really interesting that and you have. Is this a notebook? Like
Yeah.
you had a notebook where you were taking down like what people say.
The very famous one.
So what did tell me about that book? Why what do you?
Okay, so I guess I've been. I don't know if I would call it journaling. That's what people call it, but I mean I don't write on it every day, but most days. I think I don't even know how I started. I don't know. I like having notebooks and I like having all this office supplies. Like you can take me to a stationery shop and I can get lost there, by markers and painting and notebooks, and it's amazing.
I love being surrounded by the stuff.
Yes, exactly. You're just like, this is so beautiful. Like,
I should stop spending money,
exactly.
because each time I buy something when I go there.
And then you're like, ooh, it's not good for this. So I really enjoy this one. So I started buying, I don't know, I realized I have a conflict, a problem when it comes to buying, notebooks with lines, because I feel a certain kind of restriction.
Yeah.
Again, then, I don't know, I just started, I think it took me a couple months to figure out what kind of notebook I really like and what size. I really like this one now, but because it's too beautiful, at the beginning, I was a little bit scared of ruining it. Now it doesn't really matter. But I think it's that sometimes we have so many things going on in our minds, right? Maybe those could be, I don't know, ideas, or perhaps there's this momentum that you want to capture, or maybe a conversation that you want to have with someone and you're sort of like trying to, prepare your points. So I just like carrying this little notebook to, I don't know, write whatever happens in my life, or maybe if there's something I read and I read, or if there's a funny moment, or if I am sharing a moment with someone and I think what they said is meaningful or hilarious, or there's something I want to capture, then I just give it to them to capture it. I don't know, it's been really good for me. I don't know if it's some sort of therapy, but it's just...
That's good. So what did you write today?
Today I wrote... What did I write today, boys?
So did you have any ideas from before you came here?
Today, not really. I had to realize. No, but I actually wrote, we were talking about. So you said, always have a plan, even if it only makes sense to you. And I think, yeah, that was, I don't know, it was close to home.
Why is it interesting for you?
Because I think, yeah, I'm always scared of like the plan question, right? And perhaps it is because sometimes I just feel that it only makes sense to me, and that when I explain it to other people, I just sound like some dumb ass person, you know what I mean? And maybe it doesn't make sense, but at the same time, maybe it just has to make sense for me.
Yeah.
And I guess part of accepting it.
Yeah, and I don't think I think like every person is somewhat rational, so I don't think it's too out of place, or unless you are like a murderer and your plan is to
I'm just gonna kill everyone.
Yeah, so but as long as your plan is to create something, or like your plan is to I don't know, you don't have to create something new. You can gather, like you're doing, like you're gathering different information, and that's what it's like. Life is like a buffet, right? You just choose whatever you like, and then somehow makes it your plate, and then like you choose different philosophies, and then it becomes your philosophy, and then you're like, oh, that's interesting. You're not only following your friends, and so something happened, like I'm alone here, so, and I think I was struggling a bit with loneliness in the beginning, and then I was like, actually, I think loneliness has built my personality. I think it made me, in a way, to find my way on my own. In most cases, people who are always around, and there's nothing wrong with that. You need friends, but if you're always with someone, or if you're always on social media looking at stuff, I think you kind of lose that moment of. I think you need to have moment for yourself where you just take just one moment, like without anything, like no screens, just sit there. Like, this is great because I have a balcony. Sometimes I sit there and I just, like just let my ideas just take a stroll or like just talk to each other and then
So just look at this.
yeah. Is that what it's called? Navel gazing? Is it?
I don't know, maybe.
I don't know.